This is-
But
Good morning, everyone. We do have a quorum, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Emily said she was 10 minutes late. The ball foot is packed. So anyway, to just see when she comes. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call. Rebecca. Fran. Here. Marie. Right here. Dion.
Here.
Frank.
Here.
Danny.
Here.
Susan. Here. Dave.
Here.
Savannah is not here. I'm here. Emily is coming. Jeannie.
Here.
Brett. And Richard's not here. Okay, that is it. Any public comment from any of our ladies out there? Nope. All right. Approval of August regular meeting minutes. And we had that one correction, right, on Tom's name.
yes,
Didn't see anything else. Any comments, questions? Do I have someone who'll move to a motion? Danny, second?
second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. I just threw in number 5, just to let you know, in case you haven't seen it. The Gilroy District has finally removed their plywood after years. And, that's the last plywood place in downtown. I'm sure more will spring up over time.
Their building doesn't look much better than.
Yeah, I was very surprised. When I had talked with him, he had made the comment, last year that his building was gonna be the best building downtown, and when I saw it, I just kind of went, oh, well, maybe more to come later. Who knows?
Yeah.
We might be here someday bragging about how beautiful it is. All right, when we left off, it was 9 o'clock and we had to leave, so a motion was just being proposed, and that is where I want to continue. So. Jean,
Yes.
you were one.
Yeah, I was gonna make a motion. The motion was no recommendations, no new parklets on Monterey between First and 10, as well between Railroad and Eagleberry. So that encompasses that area when you look at Northern downtown. So Railroad to Eagleberry, First through 10, and on Monterey.
So that's a motion?
That's
That is a motion.
Can I second that?
Sure. Okay. Shall we do, let's see, shall I do an individual roll call? Or shall we do thumbs up, thumbs down?
Discussion.
What, oh, I'm sorry, yes, I guess we should have discussion, yes. Knew I was missing something, this was too fast. Okay, go ahead, Danny.
Oh, I just want to make sure there's opportunity for discussion.
Oh, okay, any discussion on it?
I have a question.
Yes,
Fred, did you read that thing you sent out?
The
Me from-
specific plan or?
from Palo Alto.
The thing for Palo Alto? Because if we adopted that, the 2 parklets we have would have to leave.
Yeah, but this is separate from.
Right.
This motion is not speaking to the existing parklets? No, future.
Our new park.
Not outdoor dining, but just future parklets. Any discussion or questions or clarifications that you want?
I guess it goes back to try to get a better understanding of why not, as business owners.
Well,
I-
and then,
I think with the park, that's been doing business on so difficult. It's finding that. I think trying to do the park, it's a cost involved, the fees involved. I see, the reason for it. We don't have that, this time, obviously, we don't have that park. I don't see a reason for the park. But reason being the cost, and after you spend $1 million on the interior of the building, that's where you. And it's busy street. I stack street.
and then with Station 55, now that Fort Alley is done and the ballers are up, that's pedestrian. And they're right there in the corner. They have their, which is really nice. They have that wood walkway, and then they also have the alley now. So if they needed to set up, they're having a bigger event, or they can set up right there in the alley at night. So it does give them.
Would you-
And that's separate with this discussion that you were asking.
Would you be open to,
just not on Monterey, like the side streets, do you think that wouldn't? Cause Station 55 to me seems like it complements the Gourmet Alley, right? Like it adds to it. You don't think that other businesses doing the same on the side streets
I,
could complement Gourmet
as
Alley
a
as well?
property owner downtown, I'd rather have parking because we lost in front of the corner of Fifth and Monterey and they did their beautification and making more for outdoor dining, like Fifth Street Coffee now. You can sit outside,
Mhm.
in front of the old Rizzuto Shoes. There's a lot of plant material that can always be taken out. We lost, 3 parking stalls there. And then now with the Gourmet Alley project, we've lost parking in the back lots. So I'm trying to get more parking, especially on the side street, because Fifth Street Coffee, when you go to something like that, unless you're gonna be downtown for a while, I have no problem parking on Seventh Street if I'm gonna be down for 3 or 4 hours for an event. But if I'm gonna run in and get a coffee, I want to park close. And if I can't find something close, I'm not going in. So that's where I'm for a lot of these businesses to have more parking. And I think with Station 55, it could be accommodating now, which with the alley not having the traffic coming through. So
Let me ask you kind of a devil's advocate here. There's say Station 5. If I think if the city patrolled more, you have, for example, it's not a park, but you have the flower shop that puts some vans there. And
well, they have one spot and it's a loading and unloading. And they used to park it in the alley, but Station 55 built that part off in the alley. And you couldn't then pass 2 vehicles. So they had that's why you got the flower shop van on the street when it used to be in the alley.
but it's a loading, unloading.
It's a loading and unloading zone there where people and
They
it's.
keep it there
and
24/7.
And.
All right,
we can
but-
Park at night, but that is something that.
We need,
Right,
to-
it's right.
we need to address the motion. We're not talking about Station 55. We're talking about any new parklets that want to come in. So keep that thought in mind in the discussion.
Is there any other public opinion about that at all? We have research, we have interaction, everybody's aware of it? As far as interest, I'll just remember my question last meeting, is there anybody that's actually applying to be interested in part of the thing, yes and no?
That is a good question. The city of Gilroy did a survey.
Yeah.
Victoria and the other people went down there and did a survey. And what we found out that there was only one person out of all of downtown in that area specified that was interested in building a parklet. And there were like 4 or 5 that were interested as long as the city of Gilroy paid for it, which we said we're not. And there was no other interest.
Well, and let's remember how we got here. We haven't been able to come to a consensus on anything regarding the parklet, so we talked about sending it back to the council and let them do what they want with it.
Mhm.
We don't actually have a policy or a plan, right? So they don't have anything to apply to.
But I
But
think financially.
right now, let's say, like you said, if we're going to vote on new parklets, then we can go back to.
Right.
Because we do have notes from when we previously, even before the last meeting, on ideas.
On ideas, and I did put them all out, and so depending on where we go with this motion, then I will go ahead and distribute them, we'll talk about that. All right, any public comment on this motion? Closing public comment? Guess I should have said open at 8:08, close at 8:08, okay. All right,
Right, I'm sorry, one last comment.
Sure.
Again, I appreciate the feedback. But I'm thinking down the road, we did a parking study, and I understand. We did a parking study, said that we had plenty of parking. Parking study says that parklets are beneficial, right? We have the sharks coming, we have things coming along here where I think it's gonna turn us into a downtown status, or Alta, whatever, right? And not to have that option down the road, I think we'll set ourselves up.
I feel a limited number. Once they adhere to a standard,
Right.
there should be a standard. We don't have a standard now, and we say no more parklets, the 2 we have need to go away, means no parklets downtown.
I'd said no new parklets. So the
But
2 would apply to the guidelines.
So guideline, we have.
But that doesn't mean we can't do it.
I just feel it's too draconian to say no parklets.
Anything, because we don't know what kind of, I mean, we know what some of the businesses are gonna be coming downtown, but we don't know. You know, we have a lot of vacancies, and so, you know, Dan says over and over again, they get attracted to that building because of the Barclay. So I don't wanna shoot our, you know, I mean, like, not give an opportunity to somebody who might be interested in coming downtown and have that as a vision, if that's, you know, part of what they want.
Call for the vote. All right, yes. Should we do a thumbs up, thumbs down? Roll call,
Some way of
roll
voting.
call. Okay, roll call, all right. Rebecca?
No.
Brent? Let's go put their glasses on, I can see the thing. Marie? Yes. Dion?
Yes.
Frank? Susan? Yes. Dave?
Yes.
Savannah's not here, I'm, I guess, Emily? Okay, no new, I'm sorry, that's predictable. No new conflicts between Burston Town Railroad and Google. No.
Monterey.
On Monterey. And then if we say no new ones, do we, ones that exist? It doesn't.
That's maybe 4 new apartments.
Jeannie,
Yes.
Fred?
No.
7-4, does not pass, we need 8. Oh, Danny, I'm so sorry. Wait a minute. There you are. I completely skipped over you. I'm sorry,
Danny,
Danny.
you put your glasses.
I know. No, I saw Jane's name and I went right past it.
Why do you need 8?
Yes.
Well, a quorum, or a majority of the committee, right,
Just put one,
is 8.
50 plus one.
So
Yeah.
he said, yes.
He said yes, it does pass. Okay, all right, so the motion is passed where this committee is recommending to the council no new parklets between Burston, Temple, Monterey, and Eagleberry Railroad.
So next steps is go to the council.
Right, correct. So now we talk about the existing parklets. Do we want them held to a standard that the committee puts together?
Yes.
Yes, I know.
I thought that was already,
No,
yeah, okay.
well, we never came up with standards.
I know, but you
No,
asked,
but-
do we want a standard? I
Yeah,
think that has been.
It was a guy.
Right, I'm just re-asking you. Do
Okay.
you guys want to do work on the guidelines for what the proposed, or what we already have should look like to bring them into conformity? Or do you just want to say, you know,
Need a guideline.
okay. All right then. Now, I guess the first one we should talk about is Station 55 because we need to talk about, do we want to make it temporary or permanent? Right now, the status is temporary and we have given them an extra 1 year.
But that, isn't that for the council to decide, not this
Well,
committee?
remember, we do recommendations to the council. So whatever we decide here goes to council as a recommendation.
That expires the end of the year, doesn't it?
It expired as of December 31st.
The
And
the
then-
extension.
And then there was an extension, depending on what guidelines the council, what guidelines we came up with to send to the council. for approval.
So as long as they conform to the guidelines that we create, that we've already agreed to create, then there's no expiration date for that.
Are you all okay with that?
So
But
that
if they
was true
don't, but
already.
at what point do we put that they need to comply?
Well, that's why we,
You know.
that's what we just said, that folks we have to have guidelines and they have to
So let's
comply,
say
right?
we put guidelines in place and Station 55 doesn't meet all the guidelines. How much time do they have to do that?
Well,
6 months?
I think once we do the
Yeah.
guidelines and see, and then we'll talk about what they would need to do to comply. I think that would
Well,
determine.
I just don't want it extending because here they were given an extension. Technically, it was temporary. Due to COVID, it should already have been down. Well, it's not. So the question here is that if we do the guidelines and they don't meet some things, I think we should have some parameters in there, because they can go a year, 2 years, 3 years still.
No, we would have to put a timeline in. But let's see what we come up with, because realistically, if we put something in that would take 9 months to do, you know, we couldn't say we'll do it in 3 months or you get torn down. So once we get our guidelines, and remember, Rebecca brings up a good point. These are recommendations to the council, okay, and the council does the final approval. Okay. Go ahead and take one. This is what we had come up with before, and I know Fred has sent us Palo Alto. Dave, you sent Campbell's, I believe. Yes. So as we look at what we came up with, I do want to hear from Palo Alto and Campbell about what we could add or change.
Yeah, I guess for, yeah, I did read it. Put together, so, yeah, I'm just looking at, my whole thought was, if whatever direction we went, we would use this as template for any new or existing ones. So, I understand that it would change tempo, it would change 65, so then there's different kind of, dimensions of what we're looking at here, obviously. I think the last time I had a discussion, you know, the different types of designs, obviously. Palo Alto has, different designs here, and I think the biggest question was the height and the width of kind of what that would look like, right? So I know Palo Alto, there's this, you know, can't be more than 8 feet, I believe, and, in height, and 8 feet in width, so. You know, I don't know what Campbell looks like. I mean,
Ours was 4 feet, the original.
so I guess, you know, from what you guys all read and what Campbell has, I guess, you know, we have to figure out which of the.
How about if we do this, since everyone has the list in front of us, and keep Palo Alto there, keep Campbell in mind also, but let's go through. Like maximum height, we wrote down 48 inches. Let's talk about that. Let's go through and see how many we can agree to. And then if people don't agree, like to 48 inches, then we revert back to these two cities to see what they have. Okay, discussion, maximum height, 48 inches,
What does that mean?
4 feet, so nothing could be taller than 4 feet, so they're talking, well, yeah, nothing could be higher than 4 feet.
So no,
No, maybe no, well, maybe no permanent cover. They could put in umbrellas.
There was umbrellas and no sails.
we're going one at a time, right?
Right, we're gonna go one at a time. So when you look at that parklet,
So the walls would be.
the walls would be 4 feet high,
They can be up to 4 feet.
right?
So that doesn't, to me, that doesn't establish a standard. It just puts a limit. I'd like to see something more detailed than saying they could be between, right? Because if we're looking for uniformity, if we're looking for something, a standard, right, then it should say,
Okay,
you can be between X and Y.
What would you like the minimum to be?
Well, it's
I'm not-
0 to 48 inches, wouldn't it?
Oh, 0, but then it would be safe. You need to have some kind of
Yeah.
walls there on the street.
Keep it at 48, so it's a visual thing you're driving, you don't want to stand so high. So,
Enclosures.
just keep everything at 48.
Up to 48 inches.
On Palo Alto's, just for reference, it's
Mhm.
42.
Oh,
It's
42.
for the enclosure, so. Measured from the surface of the platform.
I kind of like what Dave was
Do we
saying.
know what
with
exists?
uniformity.
Do we know what exists right now? Do we know what Tempos is and what Station 55 is?
Oh, I measured it one time. I don't have it. I don't.
And then it covers.
But the wall, the actual wall part without the cover, I'm not sure how high it is.
I want to say they're pretty close.
I think so. They're very close in height. And
Because you can.
See over.
Section.
you
of
can
it.
see over, you
Yeah.
can see into it. So I guess they're pretty close to 48 inches. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So it's 4 feet.
All right.
So up to 48 inches.
Well,
I think that what Rebecca's saying is it shouldn't be up to, there should be like a
So
Standard should be 48 inches.
like 40 to 48 inches, you know, like have like window.
But I would feel more comfortable if like somebody who knew about construction and design did that, right? Because
Did what?
like figured out what's safe.
Well, I think we have right now for
Still
you.
their
These are
recommendations.
recommendations, yeah.
Yeah, because the staff can change, it's just, this is recommendations.
Right. So thumbs, well, okay, let's do a thumbs up, thumbs down on these. Thumbs up, 48 inches. Keep them up, keep them up. I want to make sure we have 8. This is where we ran into problems last time. We never had 8 on anything. We have 8. Okay.
Jill, can
Yes.
you clarify why it's 8 and not just a majority of who's present?
8 is a majority.
There are
It's a
12 people here,
it's-
so
That's what there's,
there are 12 people, so you'd need half.
well, there's
6 plus 1.
There's 15 on the committee. So that's why I picked 8, you know, as the majority of the committee, right? Or you do just present?
Once you have a quorum, then you need 50% plus 1 of that.
Oh, all right. Well, gosh, I wish I had known that last time. We would have passed a lot of these when we were discussing. I kept thinking it had to be 8 people present. Or 8, yeah,
Well, you
8.
have to have quorum, but
Quorum.
then it's
You need
the
8
vote,
present.
it's the majority of who's present.
Oh, all right. Okay, thank you.
So that-
That helps. Okay, forget about the 8 then. We just need a majority. All right, the
7.
next suggestion was, and umbrellas and tables for shade and seating and propane heaters for warmth. Let's talk about umbrellas and tables. What about the scarf shade structures? Would that be part of that with umbrellas and tables? You know, the sails.
We said no sales.
Oh,
We said
They have to be mounted somehow to something.
The
Mm,
sails aren't mounted,
well, you're true.
they're
That's
not, they're secured to something, right?
Yeah,
I think part of that issue, is the fact that it will, if the park is not directly in front of your building, if it's in front of days, then you can't see.
All the structures.
You can't see the other building and the other building has no say. Are we not addressing the very first one, no parklets on Monterey Street?
we voted on that.
Yeah,
I
we-
think.
that's-
I think
Oh, yeah,
that
you
was-
voted. Yes, you were. You voted.
You
no.
voted.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought, I wasn't sure if this was like if this was, something, because it was between,
Oh, you're saying no part,
I
oh,
didn't realize, I thought it was like, no parklets between Railroad and Heidelberg, and this one I thought was like just specifically Monterey.
you're right.
Sorry.
That was what, you're right, Emily. That was the comment that was made way back
And we
when.
voted on no
Where-
new parking.
We voted on new parklets. You're right, you're right.
But here, even we did talk about that, because I brought up about it being technically Old Monterey Highway, that. even though there's-
This one included Tempo.
So we're allowing the existing,
Well, I better go back to that one, because we haven't asked it. I
I
wouldn't,
wasn't sure this thing last.
no, I was thinking new parklets on Monterey, okay. Let's talk about umbrellas and tables since we're talking about it. Do you want to leave it just for umbrellas and tables? For shade and seating?
Yes.
Okay, what about propane heaters for warmth?
Are we voting on those two separately?
Should we? Okay.
Yeah, we should.
All right,
Yeah.
umbrellas and tables.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I'm with that. Just, I think I like what it says, you know, obviously, certain color, right? We want it.
Remember, this is just Tempo and
No, I-
Station 55. You don't visually see them at the same time.
So is this saying that they have to have umbrellas or they can only use umbrellas?
They can only use umbrellas
we
if they
should-
want shade for their people.
That needs
They
to be
don't need.
specified.
Do both of the existing parklets have shade structures?
They have covers.
They have covers.
Sit on.
I'm just wondering, like, obviously, why the sales are not ideal, especially with the one on Tempo, because it does feel like another business, but I'm thinking, you know, if we're gonna allow these places to stay, these parklets to stay, we want them to be utilized. And as we know from this week, the heat is a problem, and if we only rely on umbrellas, I'm just concerned that parklets will not be.
I didn't
utilized
even
very-
see anything this.
Obviously not this week, but it's just an example.
Yeah.
It's too long.
Yeah, so.
And you have,
And in front of, so Station 55, you know, they have some trees and everything, but that's just something hard to think about is.
Yeah.
X sales, there is a possibility that the spaces will be less utilized.
How would they be adhered to? Because we said 48 inches. And sales, you need something taller to, yeah.
It's just something for, I'm not saying for or against. I'm just saying that we want them to be utilized, but if we do take the sales away, that could very well affect how much they are utilized, so they can be emptier. Because umbrellas are not the same, like, as having the full shade. I know that Station 55's, I know that people like I've never been to those, but like I personally like Station 55 because it's very enclosed and because of that, and it doesn't really block anybody else's business, because it's just their open, whereas Temple's, it does. Just as something for everyone to consider, if we keep these parks, we're saying that's fine, we don't want them to just.
Brand, how's your patio? Because you use sales there. Is it? It's warm with the sales too. Is everybody sitting there? So sales.
we don't have anybody until later in the evening.
But that's not why we're arguing, that's not why there's an argument against
We
it.
need to keep in mind is, this is just a recommendation.
Right,
to
right.
council. Jimmy, I assume your staff, council will make whatever,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
so I think we should get so
Yeah.
into the minutia.
But
It's
but
probably blown up anyhow.
I don't think it's minutia though, because it becomes death by 1,000 cuts, right? Or it becomes prohibitive and if you have to conform to this, and this, and then it becomes a place where people aren't even gonna sit and eat. You have to have something, but
It's-
we
yeah.
wanna make that something not prohibitive, right? So,
I don't
because
see that
these,
it's prohibitive. We're trying to put a guideline together and we're saying that we feel the sales are too large, too high. They may not be blocking the building, but could be blocking views and other distractions. We're just trying to keep it somewhat contained. I know we keep using Station 55 as an example, but I think it's looking at if there is some type of change down the way, like they keep put for an amendment, that they're trying to get something, then, you know, that should be allowed.
Well, I think we're arguing over something that I know Fran has already talked about, that it's really hot with sales. And so if it still stays really, really hot until the shade comes over, then no one's gonna be sitting in it anyway. And then we have the height requirement at 48 inches. I don't know, unless they brought in poles to secure the sales, I don't know how they would be. You know, how
but
they,
the reason for not allowing the sales isn't because of how shady they are or not, right?
it's because
they
of the
might-
height.
Yeah.
It's a height. You're not gonna have a sale at 48 inches, so we have to remember this height is going to affect some of this other stuff.
And they would have to dig holes and that would be out in our street.
Yes,
No.
all right.
But they already have existing sales.
Yeah.
So they don't have to dig anything.
Well, they're also a lot taller than 48 inches.
So we're trying to do uniformity, but as we discussed, you can't even see the two within each other. So I'm just wondering, like, you know, with Station 55, like, why are we restricting height? Are we restricting it because it blocks other buildings, right? If it's, well, that is.
Not just because it blocks on the buildings, Station 55 is a very historic building, you can't see it from the street.
Okay, so it's blocking visuals.
Even though it's their building, it's a lot of people consider it to be an eyesore because you can't see one of the most historic buildings in that.
And this isn't going after Station 55 or Tempa. It's trying to go off of some of the other guidelines to start. Where a lot of other cities, this is what they've done.
And most of these other cities have more than two parkers, like they have like a regular parker program, is that what? Right.
And a lot of them have a much larger population, or if they don't, they have surrounding cities that are just.
Okay. Still thumbs up, thumbs down, umbrellas and tables. Okay, your choices would be umbrellas, tables. I don't even know if we should put sales in because it's the adhering, how would they ever work? You know, if we get the height down, I don't know how they'd be secure. Unless someone can tell me how they could be secure without drilling into the street.
say the height, we're talking about the enclosure.
The wall.
Correct.
Yeah,
Wall, we're not talking about.
like what Palo Alto said.
Right, the height means for me the enclosure, so if this is an enclosure, right? If you have an umbrella, it's gonna be more than 40.
Right, that's movable. Yeah,
But let me finish.
All right.
Right, so if we're talking about 48 inches, we're talking about the enclosure. It's an umbrella or it's a sail, whatever it is. I mean, I'm open to any of it. It's gonna be higher than 48 inches, right?
Right.
If the sail makes it more, a better look, and maybe we go that, I don't know, maybe
All right.
we should give them an option,
all
but
right.
it should be a uniform.
I'm gonna go back, okay, Fred, I'm gonna go back to my original question. How would you appear to sail?
I mean.
Your
you would
wall
have-
cannot be higher than
You
48
have
inches.
posts. It's not. For me, I would say conditional, if it's not blocking it, if it's not blocking the visual of another building, then I would say they should. If it's their building, that it's the only thing that's blocking it, they should have, in my opinion, they should be able to put up a sail, and maybe there's some guidelines about said sail. You have posts and then you can't. go up, like, I dispute, but have them, but if it's blocking another building, like in Dave's case, I don't think that's appropriate to block another building's
Okay, so
sign.
we said 48 inches, that means no posts.
That's the solid wall, that's what we're talking about is, the wall is 48 inches.
Right.
And then, because umbrellas, they can move, but are they gonna ever move? They could literally stay in the same spot, just like a post would.
But the post then would make it higher than 48 inches. If he is recommending that the whole park stays 48 inches, that means any post going in can only be 48 inches.
Yeah,
All right, let's put this to bed. How many of you would like, thumbs up, thumbs down, how many of you would like to add a post to this requirement so sales could be put up? And those posts could be any height.
But
Thumbs up,
that's gonna depend on the approval of the city,
right,
because they're gonna have to bore into the road.
right. No, well, let's just
You
do
You know,
thumbs up, thumbs
Temple's
down.
a different,
Yeah.
whole different thing, because that was done back when we did the downtown, and it was a pilot thing. But anything new, they've got to dig into the road.
Existing ones, they both already have shade structures.
So we're doing guidelines.
No, we're doing guidelines, but they're gonna have to. adhere to.
Right, but they already have shade structures, straight shade structures now, so they wouldn't need into the.
If they wanna put sails up, they'd have to.
They
already
both
use-
are shade.
But
Not
they
saying-
are going to have to come down to 48 inches. We're not
So
going
you
to,
think they're,
and then,
Just the
yeah,
top,
just the
the
top
bottom,
part.
the enclosure of the space.
I think it just seems too black and white to be, like, we can either can have sale. Say, I would say no.
Or maybe we should say
Sales.
structure. That if there has to be any drilling into the ground to do.
Oh, to say not
then-
permanent,
then
right?
it wouldn't be able to.
No
They should be
permanent.
conditional, And they can't block another building's facade. I think there needs to be conditions around sales, if, you know, if we want to entertain that. Not just yes or no.
Well, I guess if they brought in movable poles to adhere these sails to, it'd be a pain. You'd have to move it in and out, but,
So no permanent shade structure.
oh, yeah, okay, I guess if they could figure that out and bring it in, put it up,
Yeah,
put it
because,
down. All right,
We
so
yeah, they're two different.
they're two different things, so. Umbrellas and tables.
Do we have
Oh.
to talk about tables? I mean, I thought,
Yeah.
why
that-
wouldn't
that's
they have
given.
tables?
Well, this was taken from some of the cities also, so they have tables in Iowa. Umbrellas and tables, no permanent, how would you word that?
Shade structure.
Sales, no
No permanent shade structure can be installed on city property.
You know, there's no, if it's no drilling into this, you know, existing street or city property.
Okay, so no permanent structures. No drilling.
I mean, if it should be conditional, no blocking, you know, can't block another building's.
Mhm.
You can,
And not long.
umbrellas permitted, other shade structures subject to approval by city. That just covers it.
Good wording.
Say that again, Frank.
Umbrellas permitted, other shade structures. Subject to approval.
Very good. All right. The thing with
Right, engineers.
Mhm. Okay, how about if it reads like this? Umbrellas and tables for shade. Other shade structures permitted by city. You like that?
Subject to,
Other shade strip. Where was subject permitted? Say that again.
Other shade structures subject to permitting by city.
Okay, let me read this again. Umbrellas and tables for shade. Other shade structures subjected to permitting by city.
We should remove end tables because it doesn't make any sense that we would use a table for shade.
Oh, okay,
That would look weird.
umbrellas. Umbrellas for shade. And other shade structures subjected to permitting by city. Thumbs up if you like it. We have a majority, okay. Propane heaters for warmth.
Now, this isn't a requirement, it's a standard.
They don't need to
can't
have it.
use
They don't
other-
need to, but we're
they don't
telling
have
them
to have
they're
it.
able to do it when they need it, so we're allowing. it. So propane heaters for warmth. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay. Do you want certain colors suggested for uniformity?
I think that comes with our downtown specific plan, doesn't it? If we have ever
We
get.
had group tone.
Yeah. But maybe we should send some recommendations in, or does it matter since one is on Fifth and one is on Monterey Street? Does it really matter?
It doesn't matter.
We just don't want any neon, something outlandish
It always stays in the sun.
that people drive, you know, still that type of.
Yeah, so would you like uniform
We just said group tone
earth tones?
was the
Group
last, my
tones are
notes
okay?
were last.
Still so famous.
Yeah. Okay, thumbs up, earth tones. For shade structures,
Does that mean they have to be painted or can they just be the wood grain?
oh no, this is, we're still talking about umbrellas.
Oh, the umbrella,
Earth tones for umbrellas.
umbrella color.
What?
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay, I thought everyone
I thought it was
understood.
overall color scheme.
No, no, no,
think
what
you're
we're
talking
talking
about
about, no, we're still on certain colors suggested for uniformity. They're talking umbrellas. Do you want to say whatever colors? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, bright colors.
Okay. How many of you would like to just have?
I think they
any
should,
color?
I think the umbrellas should be, they should complement the colors that are in Gourmet Alley.
I don't think we ought to bother telling people what kind.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's more just that the structure itself. is
Yeah.
Painted some neon.
Okay. How many of you would just say, let that be up to the business owner? What kind of colors? Thumbs up?
For the
thumbs
umbrella.
down. Yeah, for the umbrellas, okay? Any color. All right, building materials, no maintenance, prefabricated composite wood in earth tones or wrought iron. Another alternative could be flower planter boxes bolted to the ground, which outline the park. What do you think?
I just also bring up, you know, we're gonna tell people they can't pull shade structures into the ground and.
Well, and we have to realize Station 55 and Tempo, you know, they've already built stuff. So we're not talking new ones. We're just saying.
That was my comment about the shades as well.
Yeah,
As, because if they, you know, but everyone said they'd have to remove their existing ones in order to get the height requirement, which isn't necessarily. And so if you have a standard for their shade that you can't pull to the ground for their shades, if that's subject to city approval, then you
Then why
can't tell them that they can pull into the. It's just I'm just trying to get rid of any contradictions in our recommendations.
well, the planter boxes for safety have to be bolted into. See, because you want, if a car is going to lose control and run into it, you want them to bounce off something and not kill people sitting there. So I think legally. if a flower box was gonna be in the street, it had to be bolted. It's like for protection.
Well, Mr. Miller said he had to have there are
Oh.
certain guidelines that
Yeah.
he had to have in place to have safety.
Oh,
I-
So I think the flower boxes aren't. Like, I wouldn't feel safe saying, oh, put these in because that's a safety measure and it's gonna protect you from a car accident. But they're bolted down for the sake of safety, right? So that they're not moving around, right? The flower boxes, I think, are an aesthetic.
Well, right, and I think you have to realize that whatever wood you put in has to go with the guidelines and the standards of the city for safety. So when it's constructed, we're doing kind of like the facade part of it, the aesthetics, but there's going to be a lot of other conditions for all of this that we don't even know about. We're not engineers. So, let's talk about your building materials. The one thing that makes, I think, a park really badly is when it fades and no one paints it, no one takes care of it. And that's why some cities have adopted these prefabricated composite wood, wood materials or wrought iron to be used because they really stay nice over years. What do you think about that?
Also,
Uh-huh.
just look at Campbell and Palo Alto. These guys spent like tens of thousands of dollars on doing this to say that, you know,
I'd like to make a motion that we submit Palo Alto and Campbell's parklet guidelines to the city
To
council.
the city council.
And then the city can go off of those and to tweak or adopt one towards Gilroy's
Mm-hmm.
park.
Why don't we just pick one of those two?
just big.
We could pick one.
Did those apartments, you know, it's $50,000 a bit. It's gonna cost us much money to do it.
We could. If you'd like to do that, that's fine with me.
It's a year.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we just send Campbell's to the council.
And are we requiring the existing parklets to conform to those standards?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the whole reason
Absolutely.
for their
This is why you're
extension.
doing it. Okay, thumbs up. How many of you are in favor of following, just submitting Campbell's requirements to the city council for consideration? Thumbs up?
Well, we can make it.
Okay, all right, then we will do that. Okay. Jimmy, when do you think this would come to the council agenda?
Maybe 27. I'm not in a hurry here.
I'm putting me on the spot when you ask me.
Well, I mean, we need to have an idea,
Yes, you can't have an idea unless you look at the matrix, you know.
but it's just to consider part. It's not like we're.
Yeah, I could,
Still gotta be agenda.
well, maybe December. Next couple months.
So I was thinking, is it gonna be next year?
No, I mean, if you're literally asking us to take Campbell, and say, those are our design standards.
No, I think, no, I think at least this is what I envision, that we'd have a list of what Campbell has
Yeah.
required. And hopefully all the council members have read it beforehand and then they can go through and look and have their comments done.
Well, we just voted to have all the Campbell guidelines.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but
We
if
voted
you
to
think
recommend.
everyone's gonna do 100%.
No, I'm just saying, that's what we just voted on to happen. and
Right,
then
no,
we have to pick it apart.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, have the.
Only thing we would do is go through those standards and just say, there's something here just not working.
Okay, yeah,
And we can do that. So yeah, next. I'd say.
I feel there should be a provision emphasizing that the parklets belong to everybody. Is that still the case, right?
oh, yeah, I agree.
And, but if they're gonna be putting a lot of money into it, they may get a little more protective of it, because right now, people, I love Temple's parklet, the way it is, but people get chased out of it sometimes, which I think is right, And people in Los Pericos should be able to use the one
Yeah.
across the street. So that, I think that should be actually part of the writing. It's part of the
Yeah.
fabric of downtown and anybody.
Jimmy,
Don't they own it?
since it's
No,
on a public street, isn't there a law that says the public can use it? Just,
Well, they are both public spaces.
so Frank, did you hear what Jimmy just said? But since it's
There are
on
many
a public
public spaces.
street,
Yeah.
they cannot chase a person out of the parklet. But you know what? I feel like they did.
If the homeless person is in there, then they can't pick them out. Check.
Well.
Well, it's for everybody.
I think it
Says always there.
you're mixing the definition of public spaces. There's things the public have access to, and there's things the public can utilize in different ways. So a parklet is not the same as a park. You know, anybody can go into the park, but if it's, the business isn't operating and they're closed and people are trying to sleep in there, I mean, you're getting really kind of.
Right.
He did put a sign, there's kind of
Yeah.
a sign up a temp.
And both of them had requirements to put a sign on there, so this is available to the public, so that we would have.
I'm
to-
not saying sleeping, I'm just saying there.
Right. But I think what Frank's talking about, like if I go over to Los Barricos, can I go over and eat my food
You are.
legally
Yeah.
in Station
Yes.
55? So that,
I think that should be part of the language and
mm-hmm,
So if I go over there and have a birthday party,
And I,
well, I don't know. Yeah, see that?
We, we just never had complaint, we've never had to get into
Mm-hmm,
the details of what's why, what, so.
right. Right. Okay,
and then there still should be some type of, if it's a year or something that they have time, but it's not like 3 years to meet the guidelines. That there is some type of enforcement.
and that would have to be a discussion with the council too. How long do you want them to, I think it depends on.
Or it could be in the
I think we need to see how much change is going to happen for the two parklets and be realistic about how long it's going to take. And
right, I'm not saying they got 3 months, but it can't be having it where it's 3 to 5 years.
oh, yeah, no. Because we want this adhered to. Well, folks, we've shoved this over to the council here, with requirements. Is there any burning issue that you think that this downtown committee has to take on where we need to meet again soon? Any burning issue?
It's new business. Back to the vendors, street vendors. You had shared, originally when code enforcement at the beginning went down there. But then there was only 3 vendors that actually applied for a city permit. Now again, there's been multiple vendors, street vendors at night, particularly on Fridays and Saturdays. And there's been no enforcement. I called, I left a message on the code enforcement's number. I called the police and, the non-emergency number to go down there. And so how do we get back where code enforcement just on Fridays and Saturdays, if, they come in late that day and a couple hours of patrolling downtown, how do we get enforcing ordinance that the city council has passed?
Yeah, if you can send me the specific, because in our code enforcement team, they do give me the reports every time. And in fact, last Friday night, they were planning to do from 6 to midnight.
Okay.
And then around 10 o'clock, actually it was pretty quiet. They, they didn't think that, so then they left at 10, but they had planned on.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, yeah, but I know, sometimes some of these things are actually on the street, not the sidewalk. So.
I'll even show you a picture.
Yeah.
It was right in
They
front
sent
of
it to me.
Papa's. There was a
Mhm.
setup right there. Site. And then,
Yeah,
What is-
those, that one actually did get a citation a couple weeks ago, actually 2 citations.
So I was just gonna ask you that question. What have they been reporting back? Are there quite a few vendors that are there with that?
No, yeah. On sidewalk, I think last Friday there was one that was new and they did morning and they packed up a lot. But then it was fairly quiet in downtown and they actually waited to see if there was an event in front of couples.
What happens when they get a citation? Is it a fine? Is it just a
It's a
warning?
fine.
It's a fine.
A warning and then a fine and.
Warning, fine, and then if they come back a third time, what happens?
More fine.
Oh,
There's a point where they confiscate their items.
Okay.
Was
Oh,
it like
that
the
was-
fifth?
That's out, kind of much
Like
further
a
down.
I think Dave had a question.
I get one concern about this, because we spent all this money power washing sidewalks again a month ago. Not maybe about a month ago, and then literally the next day, next week, and people are back out there in the streets, sidewalks are a mess again. And some of them has to do with the guy that permits unpermitted people, permitted people that are leaving a mess. Now they're in front of the Heritage Bank, it's a mess over there, I mean, just disgusting. And like garbage, and it's literally garbage all food waste on floors, grease. Some of these vendors that are permitted, they're not following regulations, the rules, they're moving their parts around, they're still leaving the grease and stuff all over the sidewalks. I just think it's crazy that we're spending all this money trying to cut off streets, literally 2 days later, a week later. It's basically just waste.
And then
Until there's code enforcement that's really gonna step in, and I know there's whatever the issues are with it. It's just,
Sharon, the code
What
enforcement,
are we trying?
yeah, does code enforcement realize that that was part of our stipulations when we did make the recommendation, that the vendors had to keep, when they left, everything had to be clean, including the sidewalks. Is code enforcement looking at that at all? Okay, because, you know, we're hearing that there are messes down there, and so that seems like something we want to eradicate and make them realize they're responsible for their area when they live, or else it could be fined for, I don't know. You know,
Well, and also the challenge has been, I know Aldo came into town and his frustration is, and then you have a brick and mortar restaurant, that wasn't the optics for him to be in a restaurant. And he's got 2 doors over a vendor that has popped up. He was frustrated with that. Maybe we can do something where it's Thursday nights in a certain area that's by the train station or on the railroad side or in the park that we have, that is, you know, vendor night or something that, and they have to have all their permits and something, we're saying for food trucks, that there's a certain night, and that's what they have, but they're not none of the other times, they're not down a long way. So how do we kind of meet?
yeah. What do you think of that suggestion? The
We
tap
talked
room.
about it too.
Yeah.
We talked about it at council.
Yeah,
It's hard because you have businesses in the downtown fighting the vendors down there. So I don't see how you solve it.
Or inviting the food trucks, I'd say.
Well, they invite vendors.
They invite
Bobby's not inviting the
no,
street
do not, but some, no, Dion's right, some of them do invite the vendors to come because their tap room doesn't have food, and so.
Well, I've seen them more with the food trucks than not a street
Yeah.
event.
I don't know, but
There's gotta be. There's stuff, Monterey food trucks leaving shit all over the sidewalk, grease and onions, and just on the street and street level.
But is it the customers or is it the vendors?
That your phones come to company in, that building owner should be fine. You want to stand here? Okay, give me $500 per hour. I'll like myself. Because right now, I'm only out at this paying myself personally to get site. Pigs, shit all over the place. So I'm gonna go have to pay again just for that.
I mean, we talked about this at council, right?
Yeah.
About, and we have an ordinance. We have a permitting process. We need to make sure it's
We have,
enforced.
we can send you pictures of what they would do actually.
We have it
We
enforced.
know what it
Let's
looks
see
like,
what
and we talked about this ad nauseam, that we, Sharon just told you, we had code enforcement out there Friday, we can't have code enforcement out there every Friday, Saturday. That's just not the level of service you're going to get. We do have people out there been cited, so we are enforcing it. But really what you want is you want armed guards on the sidewalks during those hours, making sure nobody comes in and sets up. You literally have to have that to prevent them from doing it.
now our discussion at council isn't finished though about food trucks. Being brought
No,
up.
not food
But
trucks.
food trucks separate.
So it sounds like it's also a food truck issue where we might want to have a designated spot
And you can do
And-
that for food trucks, but you cannot do that for sidewalk.
See, yeah, because they float around, and maybe I like,
Well, it's also-
and I like your idea of whoever hires the food truck has to be responsible for the cleaning up of the food truck.
Yeah, but then how do you enforce that? Is that enforcement? Do we have to
Well,
do
I think if the
ordinance for
business
that?
owner comes back, takes, I mean,
There's a big difference. There. You are not obligated to permit a food truck. You are obligated to permit a street vendor. So you could have those conditions for a food truck. You could charge them a fee just to have the permit in town as a cleanup fee.
Mhm.
So you have a lot more flexibility with
Right.
food trucks than
And
you do.
Jim,
with
I
street
get your
vendors.
point with this, not being, have to put enforcement out there every day. I agree 1000%. And it's gonna get to the point where the city of downtown, business owners or building owners of downtown are gonna have to come up with some way to figure out how to pay security, because I'm willing to pay, I don't know how to do it, but if everyone, I know the people, exactly.
Feed it.
And I'm for that, people, I'll tell you that right now, and I know there's people not, but I'm for it.
Yeah.
But it's gonna have to be someone that's dedicated to that, I know the city here, but it's frustrating, Sometimes I see it, it's like, but anyhow, and we're gonna have to figure out a way to have monies aside for downtown or whatever, whoever it's gonna pay for the building owners. To be able to control,
Sure. I want to say something I heard a long time ago, is that we also have to remember that we serve 60,000 people. Okay, and we provide higher level of service than we do almost anywhere in town, and there's some good reasons for that. So when we get asked to provide more and more services, it's somewhere else we're not doing service. So we do hear from people on First Street, well, why doesn't my sidewalk get this? Why doesn't that? So it is a delicate balance, but if you want the service, your solution is the PBID.
Mhm.
And as I've talked to Jane, the chambers and Danny, the chamber is taking the lead on that. It's the downtown PBID. It's not ours. So you can determine what the service level is. And Dave said he's more than willing to pay. And if others are too, then that's a really good solution.
Where is the P-bid at right now? Does it look like more and more businesses are buying into it, or?
Too early to even introduce something like that, James formulating something will be presented on the internet to get partners involved and interested in supporting that, we want to come on.
Yeah, Jane?
Yes, I just want to let you know, I met with the team at Morgan Hill,
Uh-huh.
that the economic development team that worked with a steering committee to form their PBID. So tonight I'll be presented to the chamber board, the steps that are involved, and then also asking for a meeting with Victoria and Jimmy about that collaboration with the city and how that's gonna work.
No.
For Morgan Hill, it took 9 months to make it happen. And right now, we have about 15 responsive to the petition. What we're going to need, obviously, is the majority of the property owners to say yes. And we need to form a steering committee of downtown property owners that will drive this to get those votes. So there's a whole process we're going to talk about tonight, and the chamber board is going to, has given that direction in terms of my role right now, to take on, we need to talk to you to get that through the fly. Because in Morgan Hill, that was their success. These folks, collaboration with the city and with guidance from Civitas, the legal counsel, that's what they have.
You said 15 businesses or
15 property owners have responded.
and they responded saying, yes, we're interested, or
Did we respond?
We mean the city,
Yeah.
not that I'm aware.
So, and we intend from the conversation. We will.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, I don't want to be rude, but we have 2 minutes. Thank you, Jane. You know what, folks, if there is no burning issue, and correct me if I am wrong, I am thinking that we should suspend this committee until January. What do you think? And everyone's okay with that? All right. If anything as an emergency comes up between now and then, we can always reconvene. But anyway, if I don't see you before then, happy holidays. We'll see you in January. Thank you very much.